when we were working with yokes and chains, whether it's here in the US or in Europe, some of the black that were reacting against it was due to the reminder of the humiliation and the pain and so forth, and so they will react against it. But the people that showed more appreciation in majority were the black people.
Mm.
Yeah, but for an issue that if you really we want to tackle this, it's something very important that we have encountered over and over is the issue of reparation. We have encountered that over and over.
Right.
Okay, what you're doing is good. Then what after?
Yeah.
What after this? See?
Yeah.
So some people like in the Caribbean, Jamaica or Haiti, they will jump straight to, okay, are you bringing reparation? See, so none of us represent in official capacity a government, but it is a big issue that we really have to tackle and then know what to do and how to address it. And we cannot avoid it.
No.
Yeah.
It's biblical.
It is biblical. Although it is a hot bottom issue, it is biblical. And
No.
if we really want to go deeper with this work of reconciliation, we have to tackle it,
Yeah.
address it. But knowing that we are limited, we're not in an official capacity, government-wise, but what should we do as a reconciler or peacemaker when addressing these issues?
Yeah.
Well, you know, the thing about it is, I think that you have to look at reconciliation at several different levels, the core being the church and the power of forgiveness. Because one of the things that we know when transformation takes place, whether it's Zacchaeus or anybody else in the Bible, reparations become an automatic part of that. But I think part of the problem is that we don't have a model in the church that shows a reconciliation dividend. And so until the church can show the benefits of reconciliation in the church, we will have that problem. But if we succeed at reconciliation in the church, we'll have a model that becomes salt and light.
Mm. Yeah.
And so that basically is the problem. And I know it in my own life. I think once I had Les Jensen on this call, who through the Unity Breakfast, he and I decided to actually get to know each other. And that's probably 2 years ago. He's gone with me to Trinidad, met my family. We regularly have dinner with each other. This summer, the air condition went out in my truck. And I think they told me like almost $3,000. My truck is probably worth $3,000 because I'm driving it till I'm trying to drive it till I'm finished with school. And he said, look, you can't go through a Louisiana summer without air conditioning. And so he got with a couple of the brothers, white brothers, and they bought me a car. Well, it so happened that when they bought the car, someone else fixed the air condition for less than $20. But the point is, because he and I are walking in a reconciled paradigm, we both get to benefit without having an official reparation. And this is what will happen in the church. Now, people in the world understand that, except that we don't have a story to tell. But it happens every time in relationships that I would much rather have the relationship that we have. I was busy the other day and I had to go to, I think I was going to Canada for a funeral, and I called him and I said, look, I have to get a ticket. This is my credit card. This is the stuff. And this is how much I'm prepared to spend to get a ticket to go up to this funeral. And he bought me a ticket that was like $300 more than I had budget for. And then he said, I just couldn't find a ticket, so I just put it on my card. Because he wasn't sure if I had it on my card to buy it on my debit card, so he just went ahead and bought it and said, if you could pay me back and you want to, fine, but if you can't, that's okay too, because I just gave you the extra $300. And that's what comes from reconciliation. And I would much rather that than us sitting around a table trying to negotiate how much and he's from Iowa, and they had very little to do with slavery and his interactions. But God just moved on his heart that, look, I have no relationship with somebody outside of my race, and I want to be an example. And he stood up and said, if anybody would be willing, I'd like to have some relationships in a reconciled paradigm. And I stood up and said, I'll take that offer. And we were presenting somewhere, telling our testimony, and to my great surprise, he says, and would you believe this African American brother is the best friend I've ever had? Shocked me.
I can understand that.
Huh?
I can understand that.
You can. Huh?
Understand why it shocked you. I know you.
Yeah. The thing is that that should be the message of the church that is so prevalent and overwhelming. The idea is that the world would see and say, I want what you guys have, but because we've not succeeded in the church messing around. And it's simply a matter of lordship. If Christ is my Lord and Christ is your Lord, and he said that we ought to be one, we don't really have a choice in the matter.
That's right. We
just treat this as though it's something to negotiate, but really in the church, there's no negotiating.
Right, it's not optional.
Yeah, Christ is either Lord or he's not.
That's right.
But the problem is that a lot of people don't realize that they are in ancestral worship in the Black community. We just added Christ in the same way whites still worship the economic system. We just added Christ to the walk that we already have. And we do not understand that from the very beginning, we were supposed to die at the cross. And if you don't die at the cross, everything that Christ asked you for becomes a problem after that. But when you're dead, asking me to love my brother when I've given you my whole life, that's not a problem. And so we've got to start, there's no getting around starting with the church and being able to say, like Peter, look on us.
That what you just said is such a blessing to me, because I've been thinking about that all this week. Reparations. You can't pay for what God has done. There's no price you can put on it. The benefit of reconciliation is the relationship that comes as a result of the reconciliation. And and the Lord just brought back to my mind all of the things that we did. We brought a delegation of 19 Benin government leaders and political leaders and business leaders to the United States so that we could show that there's a socioeconomic benefit in the reconciliation process after the conference took place. We visited Washington, D.C., we visited the Ku Klux Klan in Richmond. We did all of these things trying to show that there's a socioeconomic benefit. And none of those things caught traction. But one thing, my family adopted Pere. The relationship that established between my family and Pere and his family is that Pere became my son in a relationship. And I became his father, he became my son. He got a full scholarship to Norfolk State, graduated ¡1 in his class. He stayed here at my home for 13 years. And he got his PhD from Georgetown University, got a full scholarship to Georgetown. He's a cancer research chemist at the hospital that I go to now. He's my advisor and my consultant. I have to go next week to live in Richmond for a week to get treatments. I'll be living at his house. He and his wife have made me a room together so that we can live at his house. That's the result of the reconciliation that took place from a little guy from Mimi and another little black guy from Pewsville. God has shown us what the byproduct of reconciliation is. It's a relationship that reflects the closeness that you would just describe between he and his friend, and what has happened between me and Pere. Pere just got appointed by the state of Virginia as the point person for a hospital division of MCV that they're putting in the Ivory Coast. He's heading that program up. He's setting up the hospital that I go to in Richmond. He's setting up a division in the Ivory Coast right now. And his boss was supposed to go with him, but his boss sent him by himself. He got a healthy raise, and the group that he's working with in the Ivory Coast has told him, will you be an advisor to us in this joint venture? He has to see if there's any conflict of interest, because they told him that money is not a problem. So that's the reparations in the equation. It's going to result from the relationships, the genuine relationships that happen as a result of reconciliation. When Ewa was sitting there talking, this just opened up to me all last week, because Pere just got back Sunday from Ivory Coast, set up, and he said everything went extremely well. And so it's the relationship that results, the closeness of the relationship that results from the reconciliation, that is the reparations.